Revolvers may seem simple, but they've been the weapon of choice in some of history's deadliest assassinations, from Wild West shootouts to betrayals in Arabian palaces. These handguns have altered the course of history time and time again. In this video, we spin the chamber on 11 famous figures who met their end at the business end of a revolver. A Smith & Wesson snuffed out a legend, a Colt ended a presidency, and a tiny Derringer proved size doesn't matter. Which notorious six-shooters sealed these fates? Stay locked, loaded, and ready to fire up the past because this list is trigger-happy with twists. Our tale starts from the lavish halls of Riyadh, where power, tradition, and treachery collided in a single fatal moment. On March 25, 1975, King Faisal of Saudi Arabia, the architect of modernization, prepared for another day of diplomacy. Among his visitors was his own nephew, Prince Faisal bin Musaid, a man with a hidden vendetta and a loaded revolver. As the king leaned in for a traditional embrace, the young prince pulled out a .38 caliber revolver and fired 2 shots point blank into Faisal's head. The room erupted in chaos. Ministers and guards tackled the assassin, but it was too late. King Faisal succumbed to his wounds. Some whispered it was revenge for the execution of the prince's brother. Others suspected a larger conspiracy. But one fact remained: even kings are not immune to bullets, especially when they come from their own bloodline. We now turn to James A. Garfield, the 20th president of the United States, whose tenure was shorter than a TikTok video. On July 2, 1881, Garfield strolled into Washington, D.C.'s Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station, perhaps dreaming of a peaceful getaway. Enter Charles J. Gutile, a man whose resume boasted failed lawyer, disgruntled office seeker, and now assassin, armed with a .442 Webley British Bulldog revolver. Gutile introduced Garfield to the concept of exit wounds, firing 2 shots. One merely grazed Garfield's shoulder, but the other lodged itself in his back, setting the stage for an 11-week-long medical debacle. Doctors with hygiene practices that would make a germaphobe faint probed his wounds with unsterilized fingers, turning a survivable injury into a fatal infection. On September 19, 1881, Garfield succumbed, not just to bullets, but to the blissful ignorance of 19th century medicine. From the land of stars and stripes, we journey to the heart of India, where Indira Gandhi, the nation's first female prime minister, stood as the formidable Iron Lady. Her leadership was as unyielding as a pressure cooker, and in June 1984, she authorized Operation Blue Star, a military intervention aimed at flushing out Sikh militants from the sacred Golden Temple in Amritsar. The operation left the temple tarnished and sentiments inflamed. Fast forward to October 31, 1984, a date that would haunt the annals of history. As Gandhi strolled through her garden at 1 Safdarjung Road, 2 of her own bodyguards, Sawat Singh and Beant Singh, turned their loyalty into betrayal. Armed with their service weapons, a .38 caliber revolver and a Sten submachine gun, they unleashed a barrage of bullets, ensuring that Gandhi's morning walk was her last. In a twist of karmic irony, the protectors became executioners, and the garden path led not to political strategy, but to martyrdom. The echoes of those gunshots still reverberate, a somber reminder that in the theater of politics, the line between ally and adversary can be perilously thin. From the bustling streets of India, we return to the land of stars and stripes, where another chapter of political tragedy unfolds. Enter Robert F. Kennedy, former U.S. Attorney General, senator from New York, and the man many hoped would restore the Camelot dream. On June 5, 1968, fresh off a victory in the California Democratic primary, RFK stood before an electrified crowd at Los Angeles Ambassador Hotel, visions of the White House dancing in his head. But fate, ever the cruel playwright, had other plans. As Kennedy navigated the hotel's kitchen pantry, a shortcut to destiny, he was met by Sirhan Sirhan, a 24-year-old Palestinian with a grudge sharper than a chef's knife. Armed with the .22 caliber Iver Johnson cadet revolver, Sirhan fired multiple shots, striking Kennedy 3 times. Despite the valiant efforts of medical professionals, RFK succumbed to his injuries on June 6, 1968. In a grim twist of irony, the man who championed civil rights and sought to heal the divided nation was silenced in a setting meant for nourishment. The echoes of those gunshots still resonate, a haunting reminder that in the grand theater of politics, the script can change in an instant. Our next stop is the Korean Peninsula, where Park Chung-hee, South Korea's iron-fisted ruler, orchestrated an economic miracle while keeping democracy under lock and key. On October 26, 1979, during a convivial dinner at a Korean Central Intelligence Agency, KCIA safe house near the Blue House in Seoul, the atmosphere was anything but safe. Kim Jong-gul, the KCIA director and ostensibly the president's right-hand man, midway through the meal, decided to serve a course not listed on the menu: a bullet. drawing his trusty Smith & Wesson Model 36 revolver. He shot Park in the chest and head, ending an 18-year regime faster than one could say authoritarianism. The assassination sent shockwaves through the nation, leaving citizens to ponder whether Kim's actions were a misguided attempt at patriotism or simply the ultimate display of workplace dissatisfaction. Regardless, Park's demise marked a pivotal moment in South Korea's tumultuous march toward democracy. We fly back to the heart of America, where William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, was busy shaking hands and kissing babies. Standard presidential fare. On September 6, 1901, at Buffalo's Pan American Exposition, McKinley was doing just that, basking in the glow of adoring crowds. Enter Leon Czolgosz, an anarchist with a grudge and a concealed .32 caliber Iver Johnson revolver. Disguised by a handkerchief, or perhaps he had the sniffles, Leon approached the unsuspecting president and fired 2 shots into his abdomen. Despite initial optimism, McKinley's condition deteriorated due to infection, and he succumbed on September 14, 1901. His death paved the way for Theodore Roosevelt's ascent, proving that in politics, as in life, timing is everything. From the political arenas of yesteryear, we now tune into the world of rock and roll, where John Lennon, legendary Beatle and lyrical dreamer, crafted melodies that transcended generations. On December 8, 1980, Lennon returned to his New York sanctuary, the Dakota, after a day steeped in music and musings. But as fate would have it, the encore was not his to perform. Lurking in the shadows was Mark David Chapman, a fan whose admiration had soured into a deadly obsession. With a Charter Arms undercover .38 special revolver in hand, Chapman fired 4 shots into Lennon's back and shoulder, silencing a voice that had once urged the world to give peace a chance. The irony? Lennon had autographed an album for Chapman just hours earlier, a signature that would become an unintended epitaph. The world mourned, and Strawberry Fields became more than just a song. It became a solemn memorial to a dreamer whose music still echoes in our collective consciousness. From the echoing chords of Lennon's ballads, we ride back to the rugged trails of the American Wild West, where Jesse James, legendary outlaw and folk anti-hero, etched his name into the annals of infamy. After years of audacious bank and train robberies, Jesse sought solace in domestic life under the alias Thomas Howard in St. Joseph, Missouri. Yet, even in the quiet of his home, betrayal lurked closer than a shadow at high noon. On April 3, 1882, as Jesse adjusted a crooked picture frame, a rare act of straightening in his crooked life, Robert Ford, a member of his gang with aspirations loftier than loyalty, seized the moment. Drawing a .44 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver, Ford shot Jesse in the back of the head, sending the outlaw on his final ride. The man who had dodged countless bullets met his end not in a grand showdown, but in the mundane act of home decor. Perhaps the moral of the story: keep your friends close and your picture frame straighter. From the lawless plains of the Wild West, where Jesse James met his untimely end, we fast forward to the bustling streets of 1960s Dallas, a city poised to witness a modern-day tragedy. Enter Lee Harvey Oswald, former Marine, defector to the Soviet Union, and the man whose name would be forever entwined with one of history's most shocking events. On November 22, 1963, perched in the Texas School Book Depository, Oswald allegedly fired the shots that ended President John F. Kennedy's life. But in a plot twist befitting a Hollywood thriller, Oswald's own story was cut short just 2 days later, as he was being transferred under police custody. Jack Ruby, a nightclub owner with a flair for the dramatic, stepped forward and shot Oswald with a .38 caliber Colt Cobra revolver. The assassin assassinated, live on national television, leaving a nation grappling with more questions than answers. A stark reminder that in the theater of real life, the script can change in an instant. Next, we land in the heart of San Francisco, where democracy thrives until it doesn't. On November 27, 1978, Mayor George Moscone was about to start his day at City Hall, unaware that a disgruntled ex-supervisor, Dan White, was about to rewrite the script of his career with a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver. White, furious over being denied reinstatement to his political post, snuck into City Hall through a basement window, evading metal detectors. Inside Moscone's office, an argument ensued. Then, White pulled his revolver and fired 2 shots in Moscone's chest, followed by 2 more to the head, a final punctuation mark on a deadly disagreement. Minutes later, White gunned down Harvey Milk, the first openly gay elected official in California history. A jury later bought his Twinkie defense, and he walked free in 5 years. Justice? Debatable. Irony? Undeniable. as the echoes of gunfire still lingered in Mayor Moscone's office. Dan White wasn't finished. He reloaded his .38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver and stormed through the marble halls of San Francisco's City Hall. His next target? Harvey Milk, the city's first openly gay elected official, a man who had spent his career fighting for equality, progress, and unfortunately, making dangerous political enemies. White entered Milk's office under the guise of conversation, but he had already made up his mind. There would be no debate, no reasoning. 5 shots rang out. The first 3 brought Milk to the floor. The final 2, point blank to the head, ensured he would never rise again. San Francisco was left in shock. A city that had championed civil rights was now mourning its greatest advocate. White's ridiculous Twinkie defense reduced his charge to manslaughter. 5 years for 2 murders. Justice? Not even close. And on that bright note, we draw the curtain on today's video. If you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.